Manipuri dance, an unusual practice of devotion through the means of dance, has experienced lineage in ritualistic spaces. From time unknown, the Manipuri people, locally called the Meitei, worshipped through the dance. Thus, creativity was embedded in their rituals and the body moved as an entity dedicated to the deities. Like many tribals, the people in Manipur also believed in nature gods and thus worshipped the natural processes like thunder, rains, flood in their traditional festival called the Lai Harauba. The word Lai means the deities and Harauba means merrymaking. Hence, Lai Harauba is merrymaking of gods, where the community participates as a whole. In this festival, the priestesses called the Maibis give the leadership in this ritualistic space. They conduct the total festival. Interestingly, the creativity of the people worked here to deduce the festival into a beautiful art endeavor, where the total process came up with the inner creativity of the race. There are several dances and they are called the Jagoi, the Manipuri name, Meitei name of the word dance. Well, with Hinduization, two distinct forms, the Sankirtana and the Ras Leela, were conceived for the men and women respectively. The Sankirtana, derived from the Chaitanite Vaishnava chanting of Radhe Krishna in Bengal, was a new creative idea for the Maiteis. As we see in Bengal, group of devotees play the khol and sing devotional songs together as a mark of devotion to the supreme deities Radha and Krishna. Not much of creative effort is perceived here. The course is bound within worship periphery. But the same, when adapted in Manipur, the total product gained an identity of its own. The identity bore the stamp of the creativity of the Meitei people. This innovative endeavor gave rise to a unique form of performance. The clay-made percussion, the khol of Bengal, went through a new look into the pung, which was made from a special wood instead of clay, thus changing the tone of the sounds produced. The rhythmic patterns gained tremendous boost and hence the compositions created were highly distinguished and became classical in nature. The Kirtana songs from Bengal got the imposed flavor of the South Indian style of singing when the special tremor of the voice was added to the Kirtana style of singing. The devotion of the religion Chaitanite Vaishnavism now flowered through aesthetic appeal of the body in motion, a powerful skill exhibit of pung playing and the atypical singing. This creative endeavor became the everyday affair of the Meitei people and got attached to their rites of passage, thus elevating their lives into an artistic innovation. In the temples, however, dance dramas based on the stories of Krishna and Radha was created. The first Ras Leela was Maharas, which was introduced by Rajarshi Bhagyachandra. Rasa Leela was initiated to satiate the religious thrust of Vaishnavite, Chaitanite Vaishnavism. But following the Lai Harauba tradition, the Meitei people transformed this into their creative quest. The movements borrowed from the several Jagois in Lai Harauba served as the Angika or the body movement creations. The Kirtanas served the Vachika, the Satvika or the expressions were guided by the Vaishnava texts, while the Aharya or the costumes were designed to accommodate several features, and a Ras costume of Manipuri Ras Leela can claim as one of the fourth ranking costume designing in the world. All these only testify the fact that behind the introduction of the dancing as part of religious venture, a remarkable creativity is witnessed among the Meitei people. The idiosyncratic features characterizing the Manipuri dance apparently were the graceful and lyrical technique with the distinctive feminine or the lasya and the masculine or the Tandava movements. The Sankirtana, which is basically a male dominated performance, has very typical masculine style of presentation. Also, men play the drums like the pung and cymbals called the kartala and sing while dancing, a distinguishing feature of the Northeast India. Thus, the movement repertoire offers much variety, though groups of these movements are specified for male or female. For example, the Ras Leela dancing movement repertory, like in Maharasa, Vasantarasa, Nitya Rasa, is for the women participants, while the rasas dealing with child Krishna's sport like Goshtolila, Udukal Rasa have masculine movement repertory created for children participating in these dance dramas, commonly called the Krishna Tandava. Again, the Cholam Tandava, the movement repertory of the different branches of Sankirtana, is completely different from the Ras Leela movement repertory. We do find lot of similarities of these movements with those in Laiharauba, thereby suggesting the entire repertory of Manipuri dance as distinctive of the Meitei race. As the aesthetics of this movement repertoire traveled to the stage, innovations from embodiment of expression, presentation of gendered bodies and identity gained prominence. The performers on stage came out of the Poloi Poshwan costumes and performed in Fane Kinefi, which gave them the freedom to move spontaneously. Movements from the men's repertory like the Sankirtana Cholam movements as also the martial art Thangta were taken into dance compositions, and a separate lineage of Manipuri dance was initiated. On March 27, 1899, Rabindranath Tagore witnessed Manipuri dances in Agartala at Tripura. Tripura is a neighboring state of Manipur. The then time it was under the rule of royal family and Radha Kishore was the ruling king. The poet was invited by the king, and on the day of Holi, that is a festival of colors, a function called Vasantotsava or the festival of the spring season was arranged for the poet. The performance place was in the natural setting just outside the city in the bower on top of a hilly site. Manipuri dances were featured in this festival. The devotional aspect, the lyrical grace, the restrained abhinay, the accompanying songs and percussions of this dance form impressed him so much that within a decade we find him writing dramas where dances were supposedly assimilated, perhaps not academically but aesthetically, to give the dramatic structure and enhanced appeal. The participants used to sing themselves and do some actions. Tagore, in appreciation of Manipuri dance form, introduced the technique on his songs, that is Rabindra Sangit. At his residential school, Tagore even made arrangements for learning Manipuri, and masters among them whom Buddhimanta Singh, Nabakumar Singh demands special mention were appointed. Here, the Manipuri dance technique was exploited to give visual effect to Tagore's lyrics or dramas, but Manipuri dance presentation as an entirety was neither aimed for nor attempted. But in case of Tagore, the graceful movements of the dance was deliberately stained out of the cultural context and employed for visual transformation of his lyrics. In the beginning of the 20th century, a few masters started working outside Manipur when the presentation of form gained prominence. Uday Shankar invited Guru Amubi Singh to compose stage items on Manipuri dances. Guru Amubi Singh's composition Neela Kamala Dala Shyam came out to be a complete presentation of Manipuri dance, incorporating the techniques, songs, hand gestures, rhythms for the stage. The song goes as Neela Kamala Dala Shyam Dekho re Sakhi Neela Kamala Dala Shyam. It's a very famous composition. and which we have also learned, though it is a composition of Guru Amubi Singh. Well, this composition was a milestone in the stage repertory of Manipuri dance. It was first performed by the great dancer Amala Shankar. Well, Ojha Amubi Singh, Ojha Atomba Singh and Ojha Amudan Sharma were the three pillars of Manipuri dance compositions. While Ojha Atomba pinpointed bhakti as the most important element of Manipuri dances, Ojha Amubi and Ojha Amudan gave significance to the technique of Manipuri dance. Ojha Amudan Sharma gave special import to the feet movements, and Ojha Amubi Singh brought out the idiom through a typical body movement of the dance. Mention should be also made of Thiyam Tarun Kumar, father of the famous Ratan Thiyam, whose creative attitude gave special finesse to Manipuri dance evolution. All these views were assimilated and utilized by the next generation masters of Manipuri dance like Ojha Babu Singh on one side, Srimati Thorani Sabi Devi, Srimati Gombhini Devi, who concentrated on stage presentations, while the traditional temple presentations continued in Manipur. Ojha Amubi had many other compositions to his credit, and they are totally structured for the stage, like Dashavatara. It's a very famous composition and learned by everyone, whoever is learning Manipuri. The other composition is Gita Govinda, then the Krishna Nartans, Radha Nartans, all these items are composed for the stage by Ojha Amubi Singh. After him, his followers like Ojha Babu Singh, Suryamukhi Devi, Devrajani Chalia, Jitendra Singh, Nadia Singh and many others, they worked for the stage repertory. The works of Guru Singhajit Singh demands special mention as he moved to Delhi and worked under Triveni Kala Sangam. Among the ballets he produced using the different forms of Manipuri dances were Babru Bahana, He Loi, Ingel Lei, Leiman Khamba Thoibi, as well as stories like Shakuntala, Savitri, Sita, Kumara Sambhava and so on. A vibrant state to make an attractive repertory for stage was taken by Ojha Bipin Singh. Under Manipuri Nartanalaya, Ojha Bipin Singh was working, and Manipuri Nartanalaya is situated in Mumbai, Kolkata and Imphal. He was assisted in his great task of composing Manipuri for the stage by the Jhaveri sisters, the famous Jhaveri sisters, and especially the dedicated one, Guru Darshana Jhaveri and Guru Bipin Singh's wife, Kalavati Devi. Bipin Singh fled from his house in Kachar at a very early age when he was punished for a bad result in school. He came to Calcutta and later moved with Madam Manuka to her institute. The experiments that she did in her dance ballets inspired Bipin very much, and it was here that his urges for promoting Manipuri dance seeded. His aim became to restructure Manipuri for public presentations. He exploited the Tandava and the Lasya aspect of this dance and combined them to give an absolute new look to the stage product. The Raslila dance technique is adapted for stage, but selection of the piece is done keeping in mind the exhibition of intricate gestures, the rhythmic features, the tempo and the duration. The Krishna Nartan and the Krishna Abhisara are the most popular Krishna Tandava items for stage. Similarly, Radha Abhisara and Radha Nartan are far and wide, well liked Lasya items. They fall under the Nrit or the pure dance category These characteristic Tandava and Lasya features of Manipuri dance are the identity of the form and are thoroughly developed while composing for stage. His first efforts were concentrated to group compositions. He recomposed the traditional Maharasa and Vasanta Rasa for stage, giving importance to the storyline and taking advantage of the dramatic elements and selecting portions from the traditional presentations, but making them brief, crisp, rhythmic, devoid of rituals and aesthetically appealing for a general audience. He devised a repertoire based on the concepts of Nritya and Natya of the Indian dramaturgy tradition. He studied a series of texts of the Vaishnava tradition like Bhakti Ratnakara, Gita Chandradaya, Ujjala Nilamani, Govinda's Lilamritam. He explored the rhythm texts or the Tala Shastras and composed items like the various Prabandha Nartanas. Here, his primary disciples, the Jhaveri sisters, were his tools of experiment. The proscenium presentation naturally gained importance along with the compositions. The primary requirement of the mandala or the circular presentation in the temples was broken, and positioning of the danceus with the dance and choreographic needs surfaced. The storyline followed evolved around Krishna themes, but they were not bound by rituals, a vital deviation from tradition. While composing for Abhinaya items, the Naika Bhedas or the states of heroines highlighted in the Vaishnava texts were his priorities. Thus, we observe compositions like Abhisarika, Khandita, Anangakshepa, etc. At times, he wrote verses himself for variation of rhythms and music. He surveyed into the Sankirtana, which has developed with rich tala techniques and singing abilities. He often spoke of the Basaka, which he felt was the core of Manipuri Abhinaya, which embodies almost all the 64 emotive sentiments or rasas as described in the Vaishnava texts. He intended to capture the minds of one and all who were not merely the devotees of Krishna like in Manipur, but Saharidaya Darshaka or appreciative audience. One can observe the classical elements of Manipuri dance gaining importance in his compositions. He experimented with time beats, tala and rhythm, chanda extensively, and his compositions on 11-beat tala, kankana or 28-beat tala, Brahma tala, etc. convey high degree of classicalism. He was himself a proficient Padavali poet. His book Manipuri Nartoner Gito Malika gives us a glimpse of his poems and accompanies his dance compositions. He felt the need to uphold certain Vaishnava texts like Narada Pancham Sara Samhita, Sangit Damodara, Sri Krishna Rasa Sangit Sangraha for better understanding of Manipuri dance, and hence he edited them for the future performer scholars. In his later years, especially in Calcutta, he was trying to give another turn to Manipuri dance. He started working to devise a solo repertory of Manipuri dance. It was here that Priti Patel, Shruti Bandyopadhyay, Baushali Chatterjee, Shohini Roy were trained. Guru Bipin Singh tried to combine the Cholam Tandava and the Raslila Tandava simultaneously in his compositions like Tanum and Krishna Nartan. This made the artist's work extremely hard to bring a synthesis of the two forms. These compositions brought out intricate structures harmonically. Only the attractive acrobatic techniques of the Sankirtana like the Pungcholam is generally clipped off the actual temple presentation and ornamented for the stage. Here, the acrobatic feats often win over the heart of the audience, while the dignified, meaningful gestures are overlooked. The Pungcholam movements have become so attractive that it was included in films once way back in Kalpana of Uday Shankar and recently in a gorgeous manner in Shah Rukh Khan's Ashoka. However, the Kartal Cholam, which demonstrate a high understanding of rhythm with grand stately decorous movement, is hardly seen on stage as a separate identity. Bipin Singh trained his women students in the Kartal Cholam style and integrated this in the compositions. Mostly men perform Pungcholan on stage, but there are occasions when even women tried out this presentation. In Manipur, we find Manimacha Devi trying out playing the Pung and arousing lot of controversies. Again, Namairekpam Ongbi Ibemni Devi played the Pung in Nupipala. Under the guidance of Guru Bipin Singh, his women disciples made an effort to master this appearance, but this did not turn out to be very fruitful, as they could never match the vigor and valor of men artists. Moreover, traditionally the women are never allowed to touch the Pung, so this always ignited disagreement between the conventionalists and the artists. The renowned personality of Manipur, Makhan Mani Mongshaba, insisted in an interview that a performing art form flowers its best when it is projected to the bodies they are preordained to. The experiments brought about a distinctive style which had stamps of the concept of Bipin Singh. If we post mortem his items, not only do we come across the intelligent blending in technique, but also scientific approach to composition of the rhythmic syllables are perceived. Manipuri being primarily a group dance form, he was the first person to conceptualize a solo repertory for stage that could be in line with repertoire of Bharatanatyam or Odissi. This repertory was a combination of Nrit and Nritya items. It started with a Mangalacharan, moved on to a pure dance item like a Prabandha dance, then a Tandava Nritya item, moving on to an Abhinaya item like Khandita or Anangakshepa, and then ending with the pure dance Tanum. No doubt this repertoire bore much similarity with the other classical repertoire, but through this he tried to put Manipuri's solo repertory at par with other classical dances of India. In recognition to his effort, the then Secretary of Manipur State Kala Academy, Sri Damodar Singh, initiated a solo dance festival in Imphal in the 1980s. On stage, minute details of the typical costumes of Manipuri dance is very difficult to follow. We can see that the dances of Krishna or Radha or a Gopi is directly related to their costumes. We cannot wear a red kumin and enact Radha or a green kumin and enact a Gopi. Therefore, for every dance item, a suitable costume is also required. The stage artists have taken to phonics and inafi to enact the dances of female characters. These costumes are traditionally worn in Nupipala, but the style of putting on of the inafi is according to the convenience of the artist. In this, it is easier to move around. The audience is able to see all the intricate footworks, and the space on stage is also utilized to the maximum extent. The paijom, that is the dhoti for the Tandava technique, is also worn on stage. The Krishna costume paijom has a folded flare loosely hanging from the front. It is generally called the Natavari style of wearing. The loose end often makes it uncomfortable for the dancer on stage. So, this kind is generally used for Krishna character. Then there is another style of wearing, kacha. This is worn in the Sankirtana. This style is refined and made into a stitched attire for the stage presentation. This stitched paijom is also decorated with the Moirangfi, that is the temple design of Manipur. Even the koet or the cloth headgear of the Sankirtana is used for Tandava dance items. The ornaments of Rasa costume are favorites of the stage artists. The belts and the hand ornaments are always worn. Different colors are used. The experimental stage costumes have differed considerably from the traditional costumes, though the intricate indigenous elements are always given importance to. In the 1990s, Chandralekha's production Angika took the dance scene of India by storms. The use of Kalaripayat in the show triggered off a new vista of exploration of the Indian dance artists and composers. The martial arts of different regions gained importance. Thangta, the indigenous martial form of Manipur, now came on to the stage. Its quicksilver movements and gimmicky stances instantly won the applause of the audience. This was like the acrobatic movements of Cholam dance of Manipur receiving instantaneous applause from the audience. Naturally, the presentation of Thangta became a part of the repertory of Manipuri. This sudden diversion from classical repertoire gave a different profile to Manipuri on stage. In 1984-85, a major step forward was seen with the production Kei Bul Lamjao, which incorporated the contemporary problem of extinction of the deer Shanghai in Manipur, choreographed by T.H. Chautambi under the aegis of Jawaharlal Nehru Manipur Dance Academy. This academy engages itself in a systematic teaching of Manipuri dance. A production unit initiated in 1975 staged quite a few productions dealing with mythologies, folk tales and history. Priyo Gopal Sana directed Kaibui Kei Oiba, Mangshat, Rajarshi Bhagyachandra, Nongpok Panthoibi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tarun Kumar Singh choreographed Nongdol Laima and Sarik Makhol. Babu Singh choreographed Ramayana, Loktakishai and Basak Leela. The other choreographers engaged in JNMDA were Chautambi Singh and Lokendrajit Singh. Apart from JNMDA, academic forums of Manipuri dance are set up under University of Manipur. Guru Gulabi Nata Sankirtana Academy, set up by Ojha Lakpati, deals with preserving of the Sankirtana tradition as also presentation of the form as per demand of the audience. At present, most Manipuri dancers are engaged into experimental productions. Singhajit Singh and Charu Sija Mathur's Maya, Kala Chakra, Chhaya Purusha, Suvarna Deep, Rajkumar Priyogopal Sena's collaboration with the Australian dancer choreographer Louis Lightfoot, Tarun Kumar and Vilasini Devi's contemporary productions, and then later Preeti Patel and Shruti Bandyopadhyay directed Preyoshi, Mani Chintani, Chitrangada, Preeti Patel's Malem, Surya Gati, Olive Green, Khuman, Shruti Bandyopadhyay's Bhakti Rasa Sudhasara, Geeta Govinda, Jaya Jaya Bhanu, Jaya Jaya Deva are only examples of the compositions that are now being created for the stage. Many Manipuri dance forms like the Thangta and the Pungcholam have been adapted in drama. The most popular being the productions of chorus directed by the great personality of theatre Ratan Thiam. In contemporary dance repertory, these were also utilized by Astad Devi. Recently, forms other than from Manipur are also tried by blending those into productions to give expression to the individual choreographers' endeavor. The experiments in many forms goes on.